Welcome, everyone. This is the Rochester City School District Public Budget Hearing for the 25-26 school year. Today is April 1st, and it is 5:33. We welcome you to this hearing, and I'm going to move forward into our speakers list. This evening, we will hear from speakers who would like to share their thoughts. Each speaker will have about 3 minutes to share their thoughts, at which time the timer will time you out. The board will not respond, but we will give you the opportunity to speak so that we can hear from you. At this time, I'm going to ask for our first speaker to join us at the podium, and that would be Chrissy Miller.
Hello, my name is Chrissy Miller. I am here to speak about mental health.
Ms. Miller, I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you just speak a little more into the mic so we can make sure we hear you? Thank you.
Yes, I am here to speak about mental health. Um, Mental health is really close to my heart due to me working out here in the community with families and our children. I just feel like we need more money to support our babies. We need, I say 40% of our girls have depression, and we need more money to help the girls, the boys, everyone. And we need to see more girls groups going on into our school system from elementary all the way to high school to help the girls to get to know one another, but not just that, the boys also, to have boys groups in all the schools from elementary all the way up. We need to see more money to help them. And also, I would like to see this also going on also to help our families. We need a program for our families to get the training that they need for mental health. That's really important. When they get the mental health at home, get the training to go home with, to help their children, where they can come into the school system, where the social workers and everyone else can go right behind the parents to help their children. So I would like to see that more in our district and our budgets to help our babies because they are crying out for help. And we really need the help for our babies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Our next speaker is Stephanie Kraus.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Kraus, and I'm the proud parent of a third grader and a kindergartner in the OLA program at the Anna Marie Douglas Academy, School 12. As a parent, I greatly value the opportunity to provide input towards the district's allocation of limited resources. However, for the third year in a row now, I find this process exceedingly difficult to navigate. The RCSD budget book continues to present massive amounts of indiscernible data regarding specific resource allocations. Based on the individual school profiles provided, it is impossible for families to tell what programs, support structures, and staffing are provided to their child's school under the proposed budget. If RCSD genuinely wants meaningful feedback from families on these appropriations each year, I urge the district to find better ways of conveying this information during the budget process. And so, while I have no clarity on what resources the current budget plan actually includes for School 12, I want to voice my strong support in a few critical areas. Number one, our school continues to benefit tremendously from our two-way dual language program and school-wide nature-based learning program. In alignment with the district's priority of instructional excellence, I want to see that these are adequately resourced for next year. Number two, following last year's reorganization, School 12 went from 3 school safety officers down to 1. However, with over 740 students from pre-K to 6th grade and a significant special education enrollment, this reduction is not appropriate. I am a frequent volunteer in the school and know that our SSO is regularly pulled in multiple directions at once. The school has also discontinued our safety patrol and other student leadership opportunities without that staffing. In alignment with the district's goal to improve school climate, I ask that sufficient resources be made in our school's safety officers. School 12 has had a longstanding team of instructional coaches who support the entire building, whether working with small groups of high-need students or training and coordination for intervention needs, reading development, and curriculum implementation. In alignment with the district's priority to recruit, grow, and retain, these resources should be maintained. Number 4, the amount of food waste in our schools seems vast, inefficient, and unethical. Besides the financial costs of uneaten and discarded food items, we are failing to serve as stewards of our climate and our community. In alignment with the priority for operational efficiency, the district must implement reductions in the amount of food our schools prepare and then just throw away. I appreciate your time this evening. In closing, I just want to acknowledge my trepidation and fatigue with the district's continued instability and leadership transitions. On top of the very real budgetary and social challenges we face as a community, the job doesn't get any easier with all the turmoil. I hope that the board will create an environment where district leadership can be successful and accountable to our students first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kraus. Our next speaker is Melissa Rodriguez Mihan.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Strickland and Commissioners. My name is Melissa Rodriguez Mihan, and I have been a resident of Rochester for about a year and a half. I have 2 boys, one at School 12 and one in UPK, and I am also an early childhood professor at Brockport. Last year, around this time, I also came and spoke at the budget hearing to ask that as you move forward with budget allocations, you prioritize resources and programming that are student-centered and truly support students' individual needs and overall development. I am here with the same ask and will be here year after year. This year, as you review and revise the budget, I ask that you do so with a critical lens. How are the personnel resources allocated to ensure we focus on proactive measures that support students' social emotional development and overall mental health? For example, why do schools in the suburbs have extra hands on deck to ensure that all children can access daily outdoor recess? Yet, schedule restrictions, curricular demands, and lack of teacher assistance in our schools put up barrier after barrier for our teachers and our students. It is well known and well documented that free play, especially active play, supports children's development, helping them problem solve, be creative, and use their imaginations. Play is a basic need and is literally a human right, as stated in Article 31 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. All our students need and deserve these opportunities, not just our youngest learners. I am happy to provide you with the research that has been available for years and years on this topic. Additionally, what in your budget provides educators and leaders the opportunities and freedoms to do what they know is best for their students? We spend how much money on scripted curriculums, iReady, and programs to track students, when we have creative experts in the classrooms who are capable of meeting students' individual needs and meeting students where they are, which is developmentally appropriate and culturally responsive. You mentioned literacy, and of course, literacy is a top priority, as it should be. Where in the budget are you prioritizing children's love of reading? Where and when will they have choice and freedom over the books they read? Can we allocate more funding for the libraries, for classroom libraries, for more books overall? I noticed our budget for library books is extremely low. These are significant components of ensuring children become proficient readers. How are we expanding successful, engaging, and meaningful programming such as nature-based learning to other schools? I've seen firsthand the kind of engagement, joy, and active learning NBL provides for students. One of your priorities is to provide healthy, joyful, and inclusive school culture and climate. Yet your only emphasis is restorative practices, which are essential and helpful in the long term. Yet they are mostly still a reactive measure at this point. So joy in schools comes from students leading the way, students having say in their education, students having voice and choice, having that high engagement in their classrooms. Engagement and connection are the key to having kids wanting to go to school. Dr. James Comer coined the phrase, no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. So I ask, how are you reimagining our schools to ensure the budget aligns with what we say our values are as a district.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez Meehan. Our last speaker this evening is going to be Amen Scanlon.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Interim Superintendent and State Monitor Jaime Alicia. So I have some written comments that I submitted, so this way I can talk a little bit more extemporaneously. So I really want to thank the administration's openness with the Children's Agenda in allowing us to ask questions of the administration about the budget and the feedback we've gotten. Transparency is really important. As a community member, a parent just said, it's very difficult to navigate the budget, and so we think our organization provides a good service in terms of diving deep and helping communicate some of those details. Also would like to thank the commissioners who've already met with the parents we partner with, 70 RCSD parents through the Very Invested Parents Group. So thank you, Commissioner Malloy, Commissioner Simmons, and Commissioner Santiago, who's not present. And we still extend the invitation to Commissioner Patterson and Commissioner Griffin, so we hope we can follow up with you to schedule a meeting. I also want to say that a good thing about this year's budget, and it still can be difficult for a layperson to read, but a personal crusade of mine and through the budget reviews we've done for the past 4 years has highlighted the need for an object summary, and that actually was done in a detailed manner at the end of the budget book. So thank you for finally doing that. That adds a lot of clarity on the fine-tuned allocation of different positions. Also want to really uplift the 3 priorities that the parents developed in partnership with us: school climate, mental health, and transportation. We've submitted a lot of statistics on this. Of course, there's been some troubling stuff in the news recently, and our hearts go out to those in the school community who are impacted by that tragedy, but also all the things that don't reach the level of newsworthy, because there are many kids throughout this district, throughout this community, dealing with mental health, and the approaches that we put there, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but we have recommended some cost-effective measures and building on what the district is already doing, because we have to have that continuity. We have to celebrate the great work this district has done on school climate, on expanding mental health through mental health satellite clinics and telehealth. And we don't want that to go away because of a transition in leadership or administrations. So keep doing what you're doing, but do it faster, better, stronger. And I really just want to say thank you for all your efforts. There'll be more time to have dialogue and to push to make corrections where they're needed. But we know this is a very difficult task, and we just hope that you will continue to be responsive to the community and their concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Okay, I did get an update that we missed a person on this list, and I want to make sure that we honor Ms. Lori Thomas. You did sign up, and the word has gotten to me. Please go ahead and approach the podium, and you'll have 3 minutes, Ms. Thomas, for us to listen.
Thank you. I would like to begin by saying I will be emailing Dr. Betty Rosa every hour of every day to inform her of the lack of due diligence by the appointed state monitor to ensure the district manages its finances efficiently and complies with relevant statutes and practices, providing accountability for taxpayer dollars. My tax dollars are not being managed efficiently. As a taxpayer, I have no input into the decision-making of the board. I am only told what decisions have been made with my money. I will no longer come to you to express my disdain for the operational failure of this district. I will go to those who hold power over you, because as a taxpayer, I hold power over them. I will no longer be ignored, locked out, or silenced by this incomprehensibly evil group of human beings who not only accept the failure of our children, but have contracted to continue their failure for the next 4 years. In terms of the budget at a glance taken section makes this statement: students at the preschool level identified as having special education needs is subsidized by the general fund and not fully funded by grants. As more students are identified, this amount will continue to increase, which alludes to the belief and agenda of the district to classify more students and as a result receive more funding. Budget lines. 2250, Program for Students with Disability, is increasing more than $10 million for approximately 100 FTE positions. On average, this is approximately $103,000 a year for salary for each position. How will these funds be distributed? Line item 2820, Psych Services, regular school, currently has 13.5 FTEs receiving over $820,000, which on average is approximately $61,000 per year per FTE. And now 72 FTE positions will receive nearly $6 million, which on average is $821,000 per year. Does this mean that the current 13.5 FTEs will receive a $20,000 increase in pay, or will the new hires make considerably more money than the current staff? How will these funds be distributed? Line item 2825, Social Work Service, regular school, will decrease from 111.7 FTE positions to 108.3 positions for a savings of $2,708. That equates to $66 per month per FTE. How can those positions be full-time employee? Exactly what positions were eliminated? Line item 5120, teacher salary levels, K through 3, states that the number of teachers will be reduced by 33.1% at the most effective level of education for a child, learning how to learn. 5123, teacher salary levels at 4th through 6th grade, states the number of teachers will increase by 44.7 FTEs, which means since we have already failed to provide our children with the foundation necessary to be successful, teachers will now be forced to make up lost ground or simply move their students on. Item 5130, teacher salary levels, grades 7 through 12, at the most difficult age for our young adults, biologically and physiologically and psychologically, teaching positions will be reduced by
Ms.
78.8
Thomas,
FTEs.
we appreciate your comments. Thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
And so at this time, that concludes the 25-26 public budget hearing. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Commissioner Griffin, Chair of the Policy Committee for the Rochester Board of Education. It is now 6:03 p.m. on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. This is the Policy Committee of the Whole. I'm going to now turn this over to my Board President so we can go into executive session.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Griffin. At this particular moment, I do want to make sure that I'd like to move to motion for the board to go into executive session to discuss matters of concern with general counsel, pending or current litigation with general counsel.
Motion.
Motion by Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will convene in executive session and then return after that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We are back. I want to go and have a motion to amend our policy of the Cal meeting agenda.
Motion.
Commissioner Griffin, I think you have to open the meeting.
Okay. I apologize. Let's strike that. First, we're going to motion to approve the agenda, and then we're going to motion to amend the agenda. Microphone. I'm sorry. We're going to motion to approve the agenda to the listening public, and then we're going to motion to amend the agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda first, please?
So moved.
Motion approved by Commissioner Vice President Malloy and Commissioner Patterson. Now can I have a motion to amend the agenda?
Yeah, I would like to make the motion to amend the agenda to remove the. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you guys you didn't vote?
Do we motion before we vote?
Okay.
Yep, the motion to amend supersedes the motion that's already on the floor, so the motion to amend is acted on first.
Right.
Yep.
I was moving the right way, Charisma. You messed me up.
Okay.
A motion to remove the committee, the unfinished business agenda item of mental health ad hoc committee discussion, to remove the discussion from happening today from the agenda for further consideration at the business meeting this April.
Motion? Okay,
Now it's voted on. So there any
Yeah.
discussion?
is there any
Yes, I
discussion?
have my hand up.
Okay, hold on one second. We're gonna get to you, Commissioner LeBron.
Okay, can I
So-
just get a point of clarity?
So what
When you say is it okay if I ask for?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Santiago, you motioned to move it for consideration for the upcoming business meeting. Is that the date of April 24th, this coming business meeting?
Correct.
Or April 24th? Okay, thank you.
For the public, for the files. Yeah.
Do we need a second on that?
Yeah, yes, I agree to that as well. Sorry, we have any discussion? I think Commissioner LeBron wanted to speak momentarily.
Yeah, I just want to put it on record that the reason that we're moving it to the board business meeting is because although all 7 commissioners last Thursday agreed that it was critical and important to have these conversations and move forward with creating a committee ad hoc for the board, that the commissioner chairing the board meeting tonight denied Commissioner Santiago that
not
opportunity,
That is
and
not
he came with a different alternative.
I have a motion
So I
to
just wanna
stop
put
her
that
from
on
speaking. I
record
need
for the
Parliament to come
public.
in.
Thank you. My
Yeah,
time is up.
because that is
Thank
not
you.
true.
You don't
To the
get to
listening
interrupt my
public,
time.
that's not true.
You
I'm
don't
gonna
get to
ask,
interrupt my
I'm going
time. I
to
was still
supersede this
speaking.
meeting at this time and ask that we fall in order at this time. Thank you.
Right, but you don't
And
get to
so-
interrupt me and then say
Ex-
fall in order.
I-
Don't
I-
interrupt me. I wasn't done. I was
Commissioner,
wrapping up.
Griffin?
Once a member is recognized to speak, they get a
Thank
set
you.
amount of time to speak, unless it is out of order or improper.
If it's defaming me and saying something that is untrue, then they can't do that.
It was not untrue. It was not out of order, and it wasn't improper. The legal would, you
True.
can ask legal for advice on it.
Okay.
So I think the opportunity for comment was given, and it has been occurred. So now I think it's, unless there's further comment, the board is free to vote on the matter.
Okay. Thank you. Can we go ahead and move to all in favor? I'm sorry, all in
Aye.
favor? Any opposed?
I'm a nay because it should be discussed tonight.
Motion moves. Thank you.
Right.
Now we have to approve the agenda.
Now I'm going to go ahead and go move forward with our agenda today. We have
Have to approve
speakers.
it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now we have to vote on the agenda as amended. I apologize. Let's have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Nay.
carries. Thank you.
I'm a nay, so please make sure you document that, Charisma. Thank you.
And we were going to move forward, you all, to the listening public. We have 3 speakers today. Can we call the first speaker to the mic, please? And that would be Anna Ramos, if she is on. If not, we can move to the next one.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I'm just a parent, and my granddaughter is in Abelard Reynolds School, 42. This is the first time me coming on here, and I'm just, wanting to bring in the issues of the children not having bus monitors and fights going on the bus while the bus driver is driving the bus. There has been incidents of kids having fights on the bus, and I just wanted to bring that issue to hand, and also what recently happened with the young girl that took her life. The doors of the that have access to these to the rooftops and everything. This should be brought into attention too. These are security places that need to be locked, these doors. And also I just wanted to there's issues in the classroom sometimes, like my granddaughter, when she comes to the house, she tells me the things that happen in the classroom, and there's usually fights that do not get attended to. And my belief is that the principal of the school should reunite with parents from each grade, and so like that the parents could bring out problems that are happening, and so many things happening, with the children, so much abuse and everything. And it's because the parents are not being heard, and kids bring these issues. And I believe that there's social workers and everything, and counselors in the school, and it's to help the kids. And so many kids are being failed. So this is all I wanted to bring to the code of conduct. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, I just wanted, as a parent, as a grandmother, to bring these things out, that there should be meetings between the principal with the parents, to, for the kids of each grade. And maybe things could be resolved in different manners, because a lot of kids have been failed. And if we have counselors and social workers in the schools, is for there to be help for these children.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramos, for your information. We appreciate it. The next person we have on is Maria Gonzalez. Is Maria Gonzalez in?
Okay. My name is Maria Gonzalez. I'm here today as a grandparent, worry about mental health. Okay? Mental health. Mental health is a problem, it's a trauma. A lot of childs, they have anxiety, depression, and they cannot let the teacher know about the problems. Sometimes they just swallow the pride, or sometimes they're just afraid to talk about their problems, okay? So in order for us to understand a child that has mental health problems, we have to see their different way of acting. Sometimes they're shut down. Sometimes you see them too hyper. Sometimes you see them moving around. They cannot concentrate, okay? That's a way of knowing that the person has trauma or has problem or has something to say to the teacher or can't, okay? You have to learn to handle a child with trauma, especially when they're growing up in the poverty that we have in the outside, okay? And the attention we get outside, out there, is not, they've got so many programs for mental health for youth, but when you go there to ask for those help, sometimes you have to wait for a whole month or to go to see a psychologist so they can put them in medicine. Not to work on the problem that the child has, only put them on medicine, okay? So we as a parent or teacher or guidance counselor or whoever who's taking care of that child have to find out what is the problem with that child. Don't send them to so they can be treated like laboratory, okay? Ask him what's the problem is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. And the last speaker we have here is Dr. Josh Mack.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Distinguished Board and the Policy Committee. Let me get right to it. I'm submitting this for a formal request to look at expanding the existing mental health clinic partnership with the Monroe High School and the Strong Memorial Hospital, in additional school sites throughout the district. I've heard a lot about this through folks on both sides of it. It's a great relationship. And this would enable for us to have school-based a model for delivery of the services and would minimize the students' disruption of their academic program. This would complement the current mental health services that we already have available district-wide, including support services provided by counselors, social workers, school psychologists, and agency partners. This service operates in accordance with students with individual IEPs, individual education plans, and also serve the needs of the general education. Some sites that could be used for this, and I've been in the district 28 years now, and I know this district well. The Dr. Freddie Thomas Learning Center has a center there. Loretta Johnson, Charles Lunsford 19 School, and Dr. Martin Luther King School 19, number 9 has centers there that could be fitted to equip to staff the Mental Health Resources Center. The center could serve as an extension of the existing school environment, allowing students to receive mental health services without being removed from their educational setting. In addition, each student enrolled in the pilot, also students in the existing surrounding areas could access services. Here's some of the rationale for that. Number one, you would have students would be able to access these mental health services without leaving their schools, which is very important, as opposed to having to transport. Number two, legal and ethically. As a former educator, I spent 6-7 years working in the Interim Health Academy here at Rochester at Hart Street. I've witnessed unintended consequences related to taking students and putting them in these alternative off-site environments. A number of these students don't get their IEP requirements, and we had to make modifications. I didn't, but some of the administration that put the program out of compliance. So a school-based model is the best model to use with a partnership with an agency like the one that's taking place at Monroe High School. We do have a lot of, I don't want the community to think that we don't have services. This district has services, has had services, and will continue to have services. Just the community needs to be aware of what they are. So this strong Monroe High School model is a proven model. You can provide some evidence of effectiveness, okay? And we can, and it leverages the expertise of professionals in the community. It's a partnership with Strong. They have professionals there who know how to deliver these services that teachers do not know how to do. So my recommendation is that the policy committee supports a pilot expansion, at least into these the mental health model into the 4 proposed sites. And the district can also expand the health services delivery in a cost-effective, scalable, that's number 2, and the number 1 is legally compliant. Those 3 things. In addition, I would recommend that the district request a report from the administration on the current state of mental health services that are provided. So the report could be a comprehensive overview of the current state of mental health support across the district, and it would help to inform any potential ad hoc committee needs moving forward. So I have copies for this for the board. Unfortunately, you only have this time limit, and I'll leave it here for board secretary.
Thank you,
So
Dr.
we do
Mack.
have services. Community needs to know what they are.
Thank you, Dr. Mack, for that information.
Yeah.
Thank you this evening for all the speakers. We do applaud you for coming in and speaking to us this evening. We're going to move right along. We're going to approve the minutes from a policy meeting from February 4th. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We did receive some NISBA policy recommendations, updates last week that are slated to be presented by our General Counsel at the April 1st Policy Committee meeting. I'll turn this right over to Adrian.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. Yes, there was some proposed policy updates from NISBA in their January update. And I'll go through those pretty quickly. There's about 4 of them, and in no really specific order. There was a proposed policy 8113, extreme heat condition days. This policy is actually has been in the works here in the district, and it's being forwarded out of the policy committee tonight. It's on the agenda. There is the 2245 ex officio student member of the board policy, and this is reflecting a law that went into place or is slated going to place very soon. There we've incorporated our proposed language for the board. It's in 2300, which is going through the readings. So the board will be able to approve that through the final reading of that policy. There is a recommended regulation to 1120 regarding school district records regulation. We do have a policy 1120, which is our records policy, and we do have our regulation as well, 1120, and that regulation was already going through some review for some needed updates, and as soon as that is complete, it will be able to be forwarded out to the board to reflect some of those updates. And that update is the recommended change from NISBA is relating to a retention schedule, which now covers all types of municipalities, so it no longer serves an appropriate subject matter list. So, but we have some additional updates to that policy as well. Last is there are some proposed updates to the sexual harassment grievance policy under Title IX, and the reason for that is a recent court decision vacated the 2024 federal regulations implementing some portions of Title IX in schools, and so the guidance was reverted back to a 2020 guidance. We don't have this specific policy number, however, we do have a number of the elements from this policy spread over a couple of our policies, such as 0100 and 0110. We are in the process of reviewing the elements of the proposed updates and applying those to the applicable policies, and as soon as it's done, it can be presented to the board. That's it.
Thank you, Council Adrian. We appreciate that update. And now we're going to move forward to a Code of Conduct Committee. At this time, can I have all the commissioners come to the front? We will be recognizing some of the members today.
On the floor?
Hello, I'm just going to stand over here. It's probably better because we're all going to be down here collectively. The first recognition we have is Fred Tanksley. Next, we have Robert Chuck Allen. Joseph Balladino. Cameron. Sumara Casey. Did I say that right? Samara? Oh, I said it right. Now I know who it is. I want to say, sorry. Maria Gonzalez. Chrissy Miller. Christine Price. Thank you, thank you. Yes, no, that's okay. Here you go. Sorry about that. Thomas Rosidio. Rossity? Rossiter. Sorry. And last but not least, Rosemary Wilson. If we can have you all come up to take a picture, we would greatly appreciate it. There you go. Thank you. And we'd like to thank you all for your services. We truly appreciate you all for being so dedicated to our children day in and day out. Thank you very much. Go nowhere. you never go nowhere. Okay, we're gonna be moving right along. We have I have a motion to forward policy 1400 out of the policy committee. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Oh,
I want to back up. We have a presentation before we forward it out. I do apologize. I've just been advised. So can we do the presentation first? Thank you, Charisma.
okay. Good evening. So really quickly, education law requires that we adopt and enforce a code of conduct. The code governs the conduct of students, teachers, and other school staff and visitors. The code of conduct at its essence is about setting clear expectations for behavior, the consequences for violation, and a shared accountability among all school district shareholders for those expectations. The RCSD believes in progressive discipline, basically meaning when something is reoccurring, a behavior, there's opportunity around behavior, moral, and ethical issues, that there's opportunities for growth. And the least punitive option is available before going up and progressing. So the resolution should include restorative approaches that seek to find out what happened, who was harmed by the behavior, what needs to be done to make things right or repair the harm, and how people can behave differently in the future. One of the most significant elements of the Code of Conduct is the behavior matrix that lays out the variety of interventions and consequences for school staff to use in response to behaviors. The Rochester City School District's Code of Conduct, the new Code of Conduct as we refer to it a lot of times, was adopted June 16, 2016. The last time it was amended was last year, June 20th, 2024. And so there is a legal requirement for a yearly review and updates if necessary. And just as a reminder, per Resolution 2022-23, number 13, the individuals and groups named in this current slide have the opportunity to recommend members to the Code of Conduct Committee. This includes our union groups, commissioners, both our superintendents, have the ability to recommend folks. That does not mean that just because they recommend them, that people will decide to attend. And sometimes groups and commissioners or the superintendent can decide not to recommend folks, but they do have the opportunity. So a few minutes ago, the board recognized the Code of Conduct members who are present today, but this is the full list of all 28 individuals who were a part of this year's committee. The Code of Conduct Committee was chaired by RCSD Real Team member Fred, and then co-chaired by RCSD student Ja'Cory. So all members listed attended at least one meeting. And so at this time, I will just like to give a huge shout out and thank you to this committee for all their commitment and hard work during this process. They were definitely amazing. And so with that being said, the Code of Conduct did not follow the typical policy review process based on the way the policy is written, and again, the requirements legally. We met every 2 weeks, and after the Code of Conduct reviewed and made recommendations, those recommendations was sent to the superintendent's cabinet for review. And then there was a public hearing that took place in March. And so now the recommendations are in front of the board for review at this time. So just really quickly, I'm not gonna go over all the changes because it's like an 80-page document, but important things to note is that all changes are highlighted in yellow in all documents attached to board docs and tonight's meeting agenda. Things that were updated, so updated to ensure consistent training for all district staff. There was some language in here to prohibit pre-K suspensions and recommending that the chief of schools be consulted before suspending students in grades K to 3 and students with disabilities. Reorganized and updated how to use the behaviors and responses matrix. Align the matrix with the school safety and educational climate reporting. Updated the data collection section. Added an implementation and monitoring section. Appendix C, due process updated to align with changes in the law. Appendix F, the SSEC reporting, updated with the glossary of terms so that it's transparent with what is required to report it to the state. And then updated exhibits 1400 E1 and E2 to reflect any changes that 1400 received. And so again, I would just recommend to both the board and the viewing audience that when you review the documents, that just as a reminder, the highlighted yellow are the recommendations. I will also recommend to use the abbreviated overview first because it gives a quick grab of what the changes are before looking at the document because it's such a long document. And so next steps, the goal is to forward out of the committee tonight to go to the business meeting and then by the June business meeting for the board to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Charisma. And now we're going to have a motion to forward policy 1400 out of the policy committee. You have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Malloy, second by Commissioner Patterson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next on the agenda, we have multiple policy presentations, and I am again going to refer to Charisma, to assist us with those.
I did have a comment to make in between the vote when you said discussions, but you kind of closed it quickly, but we
Okay.
can leave it.
No,
It's
no,
totally
no,
fine,
no, no,
but-
no. I'm sorry, I didn't see you at all, Commissioner Santiago. Go ahead. Can we?
No, we already voted. My vote is not going to change. It's still going to be the same vote.
But I mean, the chair recognized you to speak.
Yeah, I do
so
apologize.
You
I'm
can
sorry.
absolutely speak on an item that the chair has
Yeah.
recognized you to speak on. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I just want to say, as this goes into a full vote, I am very interested, and also depending on my vote for the code of conduct. One, I respect the code of conduct members, the work that they created. Thank you. But what's also important behind the document is enforcement and education for our parents and our students to understand their rights through the code of conduct. And so I'm interested in seeing how the administration or the district plans to help educate our students and our parents when it comes to code of conduct, and what are the measures of enforcement and accountability behind the code of conduct, because they've done great work, but if it's not being implemented and enforced, it's just a piece of paper.
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. Charisma, I'm going to forward that back over to you. Thank you.
No. So tonight's presentation is on several policies that have required deliverables as well as new policies. And so typically, this is the policy process that is followed. Cabinet and the law department were the ones who reviewed these policies. And BEC was one of the advisory group reviewed. So what happens is our SOP is submitted to our advisory groups. BEC also provided feedback, and their feedback would be included with any recommendations that made sense to move forward with. And so these following policies have a required timeline that they are reviewed annually, and that includes the Student Harassment and Bullying Prevention and Intervention Policy 0115, School-Based Planning 1210, Parent and Family Engagement 1900, Service Learning 4314.3, and Grading Systems 4710. So there were no NSBA recommendations and no significant changes other than policy 4710 grading systems, a recommended creation of the exhibit 4710E1, which is attached. But the policies themselves have no recommendations. And then as Adrian mentioned, General Counsel Neal mentioned doing his NSBA updates, policy 8113, extreme heat condition. So NSBA recommended they said we have provided a sample policy to help districts meet the requirements of the new education law. The law goes into effect September 1st. And so basically, once the policy was reviewed, the recommendation is for the district to adopt the NSBA sample. There were a few tweaks that were added in as a recommendation, which you can see in a track change document. But overall, the recommendation is to adopt NSBA's sample. And then policy 9520.6, policy on the rights of employees to express breast milk in the workplace. This will also be a new policy that is required. And so the New York State Department of Labor has updated their model policy in response to a change in labor law. And again, the recommendation to the board would be to adopt NSBA's policy. We do have like one or two sentences that talks about this topic in our wellness policy, but not to the extent that this policy covers. And just how, as we started recently, pulling out the deliverables as in policies, so that as the policies are being reviewed, the board and administration can review the deliverable to ensure that nothing, no changes are needed. The deliverables in these policies are all legally required, except for these two right here, service learning, 4314.3, grading systems, 4710, which means that if any changes are needed, the board administration can recommend changes if needed. And so similar to the policy 1400, if we're at the meeting tonight, the board would be slated to vote at the June business meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Charisma. That was quite a lot going on here. I know there's probably a lot of questions because I know I have them too. So let me, first, I'm going to follow the process. Can I have a motion for policies 0115, 1210, 1900, 4314.3, and 4710 out of the policy committee?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please? Any discussion?
Point of information, does that motion include policy 8113 and policy 9520.6?
No.
No, okay.
Is there any questions on that? On the ones that we did? Okay. And we have a motion to forward policies 8113, 90, and 9520.6 out of the policy committee? Oh, sorry. Let me back up. I just see my error. Sorry, I see it. There was no discussions. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and then we're gonna move to policies 8113 and 9520.6 and out of the policy committee. Can I have a motion to forward those out of the policy committee,
moved.
please? Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then we have the wellness policy presentation. Policy 5405, wellness policy is another policy with a required review timeline, which is every 3 years. Charisma, I will turn it over to you to present this to the board.
So the current policy review deliverable is that a wellness task force shall convene a meeting at least semi-annually and will be comprised of representatives of the administration, students, parents, community representatives, teachers, and school principals. Every 3 years, the wellness task force will review the implementation of this policy and make recommendations to the administration and the board with regard to issues impacting student and employee health, nutrition, physical education, and wellness. So similarly to policy 1400, this policy followed a different timeline as well, a different policy review process as well. So the wellness task force was comprised of 3 central office administrators, 1 building coordinator of health, PE, and athletics, 1 physical ed teacher, 2 students, and 2 parents. These individuals met once a semester. Final recommendations are being forwarded tonight. And so the recommended changes is to remove the last sentence of the first paragraph as it is deficient language, and then updated section 5405.2 Wellness Task Force to align with the law, including adding the required advisory council legal requirement from section 5405.65. So basically, the Wellness Task Force, as it's currently written, to be intentional on the review process and stuff, the language was changed, and then there was a piece in another section that was added so that duplicated committees wasn't being done, and it would make sense to have it all be part of the Wellness Task Force. So as I mentioned prior to the prior presentation, the deliverable review, so this deliverable is not a required one. And so the chief of schools shall determine whether to grant the school principal's request to waive the recess requirement for the school year. Superintendent or designee shall report to the Board of Ed and to the Wellness Task Force annually the schools receiving such waivers and shall post notice of such waivers on the district website. So it was again, for the board and administration to think about, this is something that they want to keep in the policy because it's not a requirement. And so just like the other policies, the goal will be to forward it out of tonight's policy committee meeting to start the 3 readings with the vote slated for the June business meeting. Thank you.
Charisma, I have a question, Charisma. We have a wellness policy here, as we see, right? When's the last time it was updated?
So as I mentioned previously, this policy, it's reviewed every 3 years. So 3 years ago, June of 2022 would have been the last time it would have been reviewed. And then, so now this is the next time it's reviewed. It's basically following that deliverable that's in the policy itself.
Okay, I guess my question and concern is that a lot of things have changed. This policy includes a lot of things that are relevant to our children's health, growth. It's a lot of different moving parts to this. So is there something that we can do to probably change that time frame? Because, a lot of things change in a 3 years' time. Why would they have such a gap between the two? Is that something that maybe the council could address? I just don't understand when I'm looking at the dynamics of this wellness policy across the board with other schools and what we have documented online. It is not where it should be. So what can we do to change that?
I believe the timeline is mandated like in the regulation. But again, as with any policy, I mean, the board could decide to bring up an issue at any time and propose some change. In addition, sometimes as with all our policies, some element of the law changes that forces us to change a timeline of a normal review. So that's why sometimes we have to bring policies to the board on an expedited schedule. Hey, the legislature passed a law that requires us to update something that wasn't scheduled to be reviewed beforehand. So I believe that timeline follows a specific regulation, and so we're reviewing it on that timeline to be in compliance. But the board could suggest, or if the law requires something else happen, that is possible as well.
Yeah, I just to my fellow colleagues and to the listening public, for the record, I'm looking and reviewing the New York State Education Department and a lot of other New York State guidelines that reference the wellness policy. And what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of things that we need and we should be updating in our policy that's currently online with the Rochester City School District. Nutrition is one of them, which is really big for our children. I know now that our kids, the food that they're eating has a lot to do with their ability to think and be productive in a daily process for school. So I would just recommend that maybe as a board that we look into these, take a deep dive into the wellness policy and compare it to what we currently have. Noting in NISBA and on our New York State Ed to see if we are where we should be as a district. I was very surprised to see the differences that are here in New York State Ed compared to the Rochester City School District. So if we have time, maybe we should really look into that as well as far as our children are concerned. But thank you very much. And now I'm just going to have a motion to move policy 5405 out of the policy committee.
Motion. Second.
The motion carried by President Simmons and Vice President Malloy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation of school part 4 and 5. And I'm going to refer it back over to Charisma to assist me with that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. So the following policies, schools part 4 and 5, follow the typical policy review process. And so just to move to the recommendation. So at this time, there were no NESMA recommendations. However, the following recommendations are being put forward for the board to consider. Instructional goals 4,000, gender neutral language, so the his and hers to their. Equivalents in instructional staff and materials 4010, no significant updates. High school to higher education institutions policy, recommend policy name change to high school to post-secondary education to align with recommended policy language updates. Condensed policy to remove redundancy, added relevant policy language from policy 4314.2. Policy 4100, organization of instruction and display of the flag, 4311.1, no significant updates. Civic education, formal values education, 4311.2, recommending rescinding the policy, not relevant to current district work. School to career or post-secondary education transition initiative, policy 4314.2. Also recommending rescinding, redundant with policy 4095. Added terms defined in bullets 3 and 6 of this policy on page 2 to policy 4095. So basically, any relevant language was added to policy 4095. And then arts education, no significant updates. Schools Part 5, there are no significant updates for any of the policies listed. However, alternative and homebound instruction policy 4327, NESBA had an update to reflect SED guidance on homebound instruction for students with disabilities, as well as an SED formal opinion of council regarding minimum number of hours of instruction for the alternative instruction provided to students of compulsory education age who have been suspended. And so, as General Counsel Neal stated not too long ago, we always review the policy when there is a NESBA update to see if it affects ours. And so, based on the review, there's no needed changes. And so, the following are deliverables that are in the policy. The ones I want to point out are the ones that's not highlighted in yellow because they're not legally required. Policy 4095 has one. So does 4100. And then the other two are in red because if the board ends up rescinding the policies, those deliverables will no longer exist. And the remaining policies all have legal required deliverables. And so that is all. Again, these policies will be forwarded. If they forwarded out tonight, they would be slated for a vote during the June business meeting as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charisma, for that. I just have a motion to forward the policies 4010, 4311.1, 4320, 4320.5, 4321.12, 4326, and 4327 out of the policy committee. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Vice President Malloy and vice versa. I'm sorry, let's switch it around. I have a first motion by the President Simmons and then Vice President Malloy. Thank you for that correction. And I have a question by Commissioner Santiago.
Yeah, and also to the media, not the media, but to our team, if you can pull up the policy for high school to career. I'm just wondering, currently in place by our district, are there any places or measures or data places where we're putting the interests of our student, and of course our students, or the different interests of our students. And of course in middle school and the beginning of high school, you have different things that you're interested in. It may not be a specific career, But I'm wondering, how are we tracking what our kids are interested in? And not only tracking that, but giving them an opportunity or a space for them to be in programs that's tailored around what their interests are. Because I do see this school to career policy. I'm just wondering, like, are we keeping track of what are our students interested in, even if it's, CTE or even if it is going into college? And how are we aiding to what their interests are, career-wise?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Santiago, our students participate, or our students' interests are locked in with a program at the middle school level called School Links. That is where we start to track their interest and try to begin directing them on pathways that will best suit their needs through high school and beyond. And that was changed, I want to say, last year or this year. Was it this year? This year, we used to use the platform called Naviance, but now we're using School Links to track those efforts.
Okay.
And I just want to add on to Commissioner Santiago's point. It's actually something that I was going to talk about today in reference to the children and the CTE programs and things that they may be interested in. It seems as though we are lacking thereof in a lot of schools, a lot of the CTE programs and initiatives, which is, for me, one of the ways, one of the things that can help our children socially and emotionally, and drive them into to something else instead of having that those things affect them. So to the point, of that data being collected, if it is being collected, when does it come to us to see and to review, or is that something that is just done directly with the superintendent and his cabinet? And how did the commissioners find out about it?
The commissioners find out about it when we start developing programs, if we see that there's trends in certain students' likes and their wants. So if we see that there's an increase in a lot of students wanting cosmetology, that will prompt us to actually look at spaces to open more programs in different schools and things of that nature. But I would definitely say put that information or that question in the question log, and we can determine how to possibly get some type of information to you in that regard.
Okay, if I put it. And to the listening public, if I put it on the question log, that means that it has to be delivered back to us in an open meeting setting. So I just want that one not to be known, because we can't, you sending it to me is not going to be to the public, so they're not going to know exactly what is happening. So, and then another thing is, we have just for example, the robotics. The robotics was at Franklin, and the kids really were into the robotics, the CTE program that they just did at RIT, and then it went away when all the changes were made at Franklin, and the kids were not able to do the robotics, and they had a robust robotic program at Franklin. So how do we make sure that even the programs that have been at the different schools are not falling by the wayside, and we have the people that want to do this for our children are able to do it? Because we need to track that as well, because that was a big hit for Franklin when they had a lot of kids that were there and they were not able to participate in the robotics CTE program that they had at RIT. They were very disappointed. I think we have a question from council.
Not a question. I think just to respond to the statement. I don't. I mean, any commissioner can ask a question at an open meeting. What requires deliberation at an open meeting is discussion amongst commissioners. A request for information can be made by the board or commissioner, and there is some obligation to get that information back to the commissioner, but as a legal matter, that whether information requested has to be thereafter discussed at an open meeting, I don't believe that to be the case. I believe there is should be efforts to get that information back as it pertains to the decision-making process, and a commissioner is free to raise that then again in discussion at a subsequent meeting. But so that's the clarification I think I was being asked to give.
Okay, I just wanna say this to the listening public. I think we need to vet that a little bit more, because if it's asked a question in open meeting, it has the answer, the public has a right to know what the answer is. So I think instead of us trying to figure it out now, we need to definitely go back and look at the educational law and the school and the policy to make sure that we're governing and giving the correct information to the listening public. But I do
Commissioner can
appreciate your
absolutely
comment.
raise it again. Yeah, a
Yeah.
commissioner can raise it again if they so choose at a later meeting.
So, Madam Chair, with all due respect, I definitely hear what you're saying. I don't have the answer to your question right now. That's why I'm asking for it to go in the question log. And I did want the public to know that that question log is actually public. So they do have access to that.
Thank you for
Question,
clarifying that.
the question is though, and I understand what you were saying, Dr. Strickland. What I'm saying though, if it's happening in an open meeting, the public shouldn't have to dive and try to find out the answer when it was done in an open meeting setting. That's why I'm going back to council and saying, instead of giving out misinformation by myself or anyone else, we need to clarify that, and we can bring it back to the listening public and say, okay, these are the guidelines, this is what needs to be said. That's all I'm saying. So I do understand and respect what you're saying. I just want to make sure that we have an understanding that I'm trying to clarify the language, the legal language surrounding that. That's all. Thank you. I'll take one more question. Go ahead, President Simmons.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. I also think that there are solutions we can come up with as far as the public-facing information. So we can figure out where that would best fit, and that might even be the board providing education on how the public can access the information they're looking for, because I think you make a really good point around information getting embedded in things, and it's very difficult sometimes to even navigate our website. So we as a board can maybe find ways to make sure we're educating and putting that information in a container that is accessible. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And Commissioner Santiago, I'll go ahead and let you take the last question.
For policy 4311.2, when we're saying the rescind recommendations, what exactly, just very quickly, what exactly does that mean? Because I see track changes, clean copy, but this is the only one I see with the rescind.
I can answer that. I just want to be clear that this motion that you all are on is not for that one yet.
Oh,
Do you want me to?
I'm a little ahead. I'm just like,
Do you want me to
okay.
answer, or do you want to wait till you get to that?
No,
one?
we can wait till we get to the civic engagement, the civic education policy. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to move on with all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then I have a motion to forward policy 4,000 out of the policy committee. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I have a motion by Vice President Malloy, second by President Simmons. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to policy 4095 out of the policy committee. Can I have a motion to forward policy 4095 out of the policy committee? I'm sorry, I have. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see the first one. We have President Simmons as the first, and the second is Vice President Malloy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And we have motion to forward policy 4100 out of the policy committee.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Santiago and second by Vice President Malloy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. I have a motion to forward policy 4311.2 out of the policy committee, including the recommendations to rescind. Have a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice President Malloy, second by President Simmons, and I have a question from Commissioner Santiago.
You can answer to the question from earlier. Yeah, what do the other one is moving it out of the policy committee, but this one is including the recommendation to rescind. So are we saying that this policy will no longer exist, or?
Yeah, right. So as you all are doing your readings the next 3 months, the goal is as you're reviewing it, that in June you vote to remove it from the policy manual so it will no longer exist for our district. Same
So
goes for I'm sorry.
Yeah, so thank you for that clarification. Because I'm actually going to vote against that. I think education is important. I think civic education and having a policy around civic education is important, certainly as where we are today. So I am going to vote against that even coming into the business meeting. I hope that some of our commissioners will agree on the importance of civic education, but I am not going to vote in support of that. And thank you for the clarification.
Is there any more discussions? Go ahead, President Simmons.
I just want a point of clarity. Pushing this forward for continued conversation is not changing or anything. It's just continued conversation and opportunity to maybe even rewrite the policy as it stands, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussions? Yes, Commissioner Santiago.
Just so I'm clear, but this is with the recommendation to rescind, which means it'll be going to the business meeting for us to have conversations then about it being rescinded.
So you all can have both conversations. The recommendation from what's being presented to you is to rescind it, but as you're going through the readings, again, the board has a final say. So if you all decide like, no, we want to keep this policy as is or make revisions, you can do that through each of the readings. So it really depends on what the board wants to do.
Thank you for that too. So I'll vote in favor because I do think that needs to be edited. It seems like a policy that's been in place for a while. And so I do believe that has to be edited, but I will not be voting in favor for the policy to disappear. But that's later on down the line, it sounds like. Okay, thank you.
Okay. May I? Is there any more? Go ahead, President. I'm sorry, Vice President Malloy.
Yeah, thank you for those clarifications. And as a social studies teacher, I value civics education, so I won't be voting to rescind that either. Thank you.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to forward policy 4314.2 out of the policy committee, including the recommendations to rescind. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Malloy, second by President Simmons. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to refer to Charisma to bring the presentation for the financial management part 3, 6700 through 6750. Charisma?
Last presentation. So similar to the previous presentation, these policies followed the same policy review process. The reason why they were is not the full packet is the board received some of these pieces back at the February policy meeting, and there was some needed work to be done. So the remaining policies are now being presented to you. So the purchasing policy, policy 6700, NESBA updated the policy to reflect the district's option under the law to give a preference for purchasing American salt, as well as amended exemptions for competitive bidding for certain food and milk purchases. So the recommendations in front of you, updated to align with NESBA's policy recommendations and the law. Policy also reorganized for a better flow. The remaining policies did not receive any NESBA recommendations. However, policy 6725, responsible bidder, recommended deletion is due to the hearing requirement not being a requirement under the law and its implementation being costly to the district. The law in this area allows the district's decision to stand so long as the decision is reasonable. Policy 6741 and 6745 align with policy 6700 recommendations. In addition, policy 6745 added required policy review timeline. Vendor relations policy 6750 is currently still under review from this policy batch. And so the goal, again, is to forward these policies out of the committee tonight for the board to vote on it, well, for it to go through its 3 readings, for the board to vote during a June business meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Charisma. Now we're going to have a motion to forward policy 6700 out of the policy committee. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Santiago, and then I have another.
That's fine.
Commissioner Patterson was over here too saying motion too, so and it was another motion by Commissioner Patterson. And any discussion?
You're in the 6700s, right? I did have a question around 6745, I think is what I was looking at. And I recognize that this is really the financial piece for us to be prudent around how we are looking at things. 6745 specifically talks about the authorization of contracts. And just looking at this, I understand that, again, the changes being made regarding finances. I'm curious to know, you may not know offhand, and it's okay if you answer it later, if we have a policy that talks about our evaluation of some of the contracts. And so we may have to build that out in a way that's not getting too far into the weeds, but not that we would evaluate them, but that we get a report. So I'm recognizing that we just have so many programs and contracts that we approve each year. And then some that may be working really well and some may not be. How do we make sure we're making the right decisions? Thank you.
So we do have a team that was established 2.5 years ago or so that are specifically doing program evaluations to help inform our decisions on the effectiveness of the programs that we fund or partner with. And what they have developed is a program evaluation schedule. Prior, we've had the luxury of having the American Rescue Fund, so we were able to also contract with another large program evaluation. We're able to do a lot more in the 23-24 school year. Right now, we have 2 full-time folks who doing a program evaluation takes a lot of data analysis, interviews, and things of that sort. So I am in a process of sending to the board, working with Rahima, the schedule of those program evaluations. And how we decided to do it initially was those resources in which we spent the most money and work our way down in the schedule, looking to evaluate, as we did last year, summer learning, our social emotional support, Saturday schools, and after school, small group instructions. There's various things that are on the list, so we'll have that for you. And we'll do what we did similarly before, where we have a database in Google where you'll be able to, as those evaluations are done, be able to access those. And we'll clue you guys when an evaluation is completed by working with the board clerk, who will notify you guys with the link that you can go in here and check this evaluation. So that's the process that we are utilizing with our program evaluation team.
Yes, Vice President Malloy.
So this is just in regard to policy 6741. I'm looking at the tracked changes and the wording in where it says, notwithstanding the foregoing, RFIs and RFPs shall not be required in the following circumstances. A little further down, it says, and pursuant to which the district is lawfully piggybacking, see policy 6700. That just seems like awkward language there, and I'm wondering if there's another way that can be expressed. And is it normal for us to say, see policy such and such in the middle of a policy? I just don't know what the normal process is necessarily. Is there another way to phrase that? It just seems like bizarre a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, language changes, for further clarity or can always be done. And I mean, that's part of why it goes through the readings. And I think if you have a question, others might have that question as well. From my perspective, as someone who looks at a lot of these policies, it's actually helpful to see another policy specifically referenced, because then the alternative is to spell out exactly what piggybacking is, and then the policy itself balloons, right?
Okay.
Into multiple pages. So you're right that it's not common, but from my perspective, it was a helpful thing to do. But actually, absolutely, I mean, as it's going through the readings, we can take it back and
Yeah.
maybe circulate some language and see if that is helpful.
Especially with the term lawfully piggybacking, just seems potentially problematic. What does that mean if the public's reading that? What constitutes lawfully piggybacking? So I'm just curious about all
Which
that.
would be explained in 6700
Yeah.
more in detail. But I understand the question, and we can absolutely see if there's language that would be
And
clearer.
I think, just for the public, I think there is concern that, we grant these, we have multiple contracts sometimes with the same vendors, and as long as those contracts are under a certain amount, maybe they don't raise any eyebrows. I know that's been a concern brought up by many commissioners over the years. And I don't know if that has anything to do with this terminology here, like the lawfully piggybacking.
So I won't get into in depth in what it means, but lawful piggybacking basically allows some entities, especially governmental entities, to rely on the procurement work done by another organization, right? So for example, if you have another entity, another governmental entity, like the city or Monroe County, and they do a RFP for some necessary service like heat gas, right? And we are potentially allowed, if everything is in place, to rely on their procurement and contract with that vendor without doing the entirety of our own piggybacking. Now, piggybacking, I mean, the reason why the lawful piggybacking was inserted in there is because it is sometimes is misapplied, right? Because there are actually a lot of limitations about when you can do it and how you can do it. So that's what piggybacking refers to. In regard to your other question, as it pertains to certain contracts that come before the board, there is a tracking that goes on behind the scenes, and for example, my department. Any contract that is processed, through our normal contract process, we track once it hits a threshold, even if it's separate contracts with the same vendor.
Okay.
And so we do monitor that. And so if you have a smaller contract, once it hits that board threshold, we do send the very next contract to the board to avoid exactly what you were pointing out in your first question.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question, I guess, and thank you so much for enlightening me here. Does this just refer to government services, or could this also refer to services provided by CBOs or community-based organizations?
So the entirety of the policy applies to pretty much any professional services contract. As it pertains to piggybacking, that is much more of a nuanced and technical a thing, and there's only certain types of services or contracts that you can lawfully piggyback off of. But this policy really applies to every professional services contract. So the overwhelming majority of contracts that again are processed through the Department of Law that come before the board, this is the policy that we kind of rely on to check off that RFP and RFIs, those type of procurement work is done.
Thank you so much for your responses. I was just concerned more about, potential redundancies within the district. So thank you.
Is there any more questions? I have on a motion to forward policy 6700 out of the policy committee.
I'm sorry, my hand is up, so I don't know who's
Oh,
monitoring the screen.
I do apologize. Commissioner LeBron, you had a question.
Yeah, no, a comment to what Commissioner Malloy was just saying for the listening audience at the board. Any contracts over $35,000, that's the threshold. Each government body has a different threshold. For us, it's 35. Anything over 35, the administration is required to bring it to the board through a resolution, no matter who the vendor is. And that's also how we know where folks are at, but also want to add that the board gets a report from the legal on all of those contracts as well. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay, I would have a motion to move it forward out of policy.
There was already a motion and a second, right, on 6700, so it's just a vote now, Charisma, if I'm correct? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. So we have a vote.
Aye.
Aye, okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. A motion to forward policy 6725 out of the policy committee. Got motion? I have a motion by Commissioner Patterson, second by Vice President Malloy. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to move forward policy 6740 out of the policy committee.
Just a quick, I think you meant 6741, all right?
I'm sorry, 6741. I'm sorry, yes. Sorry, thank you, Council. It's motion to forward policy 6741 out of the policy committee. I have a motion by Commissioner Patterson. Can I have a second, please? Second by Vice President Malloy. All in favor? Any discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, yeah, motion of the forward policy 6745 out of the policy committee. Motion by President Simmons, second by Vice President Malloy. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And I just wanted to, for the listening public, I wanted you to understand my position here as a policy chair. I clearly wanted to just let you know that we are all looking forward to making changes that are lucrative for our students and our staff as a whole in the Rochester City School District. My goal and our goal collectively is to make sure that we have all the information in front of us before we make decisions. So tonight's decision to put the ad hoc committee for mental health on hold was a collective union from all the commissioners. It wasn't something that I personally, as a board chair, wanted to
I do
not
not
do.
agree to
So I
that,
wanted
so I
to
just want
I
the
wanted to
record
make it clear
reflect that
that
is not an
you do
accurate
not have the floor.
appreciation of what happened.
You don't have the
Commissioner
floor.
I said
Santiago,
You don't have the floor,
Commissioner
Mr.
LeBron,
Brown.
Yeah, but
Commissioner
you're
LeBron
not
Harris, you
gonna
do
say
have to be
that
recognized
you
by
have
the chair
board
to speak.
Commissioner
decisions.
LeBron,
What
you
board
don't have
members
the floor.
voted for that? What board members?
So
I'm a no.
additionally,
So I
we will
wanted
be
the record to be
holding.
clear that
Yep,
I did
so,
not
so
vote that.
Commissioner LeBron Harris, you do have to be recognized to speak. So my apologies on
Right,
that.
but
You
she's
do.
not gonna also
And
lie
in
on
addition, we
record.
will
She
be
can make her
holding,
point.
I'm
She can
I'm
make her point,
asking
but
the,
she cannot speak for the
I'm
full
asking
board. She
council
cannot
to
speak for.
please step in.
So again,
And
the votes, there was a vote on the amendment, and I think the record
There was
reflects
a
who
vote on the
voted. The
amendment,
record
but
will
do
reflect who
not
Can I
voted
say
and
that
who
please
did
the
have
not.
Commissioner
board voted
LeBron
to remove
remove,
I
can her
understand,
mic be turned off?
Right,
If there's-
Commissioner
she
LeBron
can't-
Harris,
she
you do have
cannot
to
be
be recognized by
speaking.
the chair to speak. There was a
Thank
vote,
you.
and whatever, the point you're trying to make is who was in favor and who was not in favor. There wasn't a vote on the record that is clear to all involved, so I think that resolves that.
Thank you very much. I just want to let the listening public know, but I would no means
Listening public needs
discourage
to
any
know
kind of
that you
mental
moved
health.
it
I'm
to
asking
allow
Commissioner
Isaiah
LeBron to please
Santiago to put it
refrain
on the
from
agenda
being
tonight. That was not a
disrespectful
vote. They
to the
voted
board.
afterwards.
Point of
But it was
order.
your
Point
actions
of
of not
order.
allowing it to
Point
go.
of
That is the point of
order.
order.
Point
That
of
is the point of
order.
order. That
Point
you are
of order.
fraudulent. You did
Point
not know
of
the order.
order.
Commissioner
Point of
LeBron,
order.
Commissioner
Point
LeBron
of
Harris,
order.
it
Please,
is,
point
it
of
is,
order.
it is out of
Authority to
order.
adjourn the
That
meeting
it
if
is
we
out
need
of
to.
order.
100% that is
Okay,
out of order.
she's
It is-
still
it is out of
talking, so
order.
So no.
okay, we're going to adjourn the meeting, but to the listening public, we are all in favor of making sure the world is better for all our children. Have a great night.
Motion to
Thank you.
Please
adjourn.
cut the
Thank
mics.
you.
Please cut the mics.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.